I'm Jackie Capstick, and welcome to the Natural Healing Reel. Today, my guest is CJ Scarlet, and I'm just going to say I'm really, really excited because her nickname is Badass Grandma. So we're just going to say hello to CJ to start, and then we'll get into what she's up to. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm so excited to talk to your listeners.
I'm glad that you're here too, because you have a lot of great, amazing things to share with us. And so you're an author of 4 books, with one in the midst as well, still right now. And what the one that you're doing right now is that you're working on, is that something that's
it's called Unfair Advantage, and it's a book for parents of kids 10 to 18 about how to empower them to be little badasses, to avoid dangerous people and defend themselves if they need to. So it covers everything from bullying, cyberbullying, digital dangers where crime is really going up, sexual molestation, assault, sex trafficking, kind of runs the gamut of all the personal assaults a child can experience. A lot of parents think, nothing's going to happen to my kid. I'm watching them all the time. No. In fact, a lot of kids are molested by other kids. And most of the bullying happens by other kids. And so your child is not in your sight all the time. And the best thing you can do for them is to empower them, give them the knowledge and the information they need to learn to trust their intuition, to recognize its voice, to trust it when it speaks to them, to have clear boundaries, physically, emotional, mental, spiritual boundaries that they're willing to defend and have not let people cross, and then take action on their own behalf to let people know when they feel uncomfortable around them, to be able to say no to adults and other kids who are scaring them or making them uncomfortable. A lot of kids aren't taught these things, and that's why we have so many victims.
Well, to me, it seems like the bullying it's escalating. So I have the kids for a lifetime, and I've got a couple younger ones in the young teenage years. And, all of my children have been bullied very badly throughout. And so I think that I think more than we know, we all have that trauma story of being bullied, throughout. Maybe it's younger, maybe it's your siblings, but a lot of times I think that you're right. It is other siblings, isn't it? And that goes on, that really scars you, because it's your family. You can kind of, it's hidden. This is out there.
It's easy to miss it because you're not looking and because you don't want to see it.
Well, and I think that my experience also has been that the adults don't see it. A lot of times they're missing what's going on, even though it's right in front of them, and they don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. I was really shocked when I was writing my last 2 books, Badass Parenting and Heroic Parenting, which are actually the same book. It's for parents of kids 0 to 9, covers the same kinds of topics, but Badass Parenting is a little more inappropriate, and Heroic Parenting is a PG-rated version of Badass Parenting. So if you're up for profanity and a lot of snark, you want Badass Parenting. But if you'd rather not be quite as offended, you want to go with Heroic Parenting. But anyway, when I was doing the research on bullying, I encountered a number of jurisdictions and school districts that reported they had 0 bullying incidents in their schools, which we know is garbage. I mean, that's just not true. They don't want to record it because they don't want to look bad. And so they're not protecting these kids. And a lot of them have zero bullying, 0 tolerance bullying policies, which means that if your child is bullied and gets in some sort of incident with another child, they're both going to be put in ISS or expelled. They don't care who did it, who started it. If you're involved, you're going to be punished.
So nobody's saying anything then. There's no reason for anybody to say a word.
Nope. My son was
in 5th grade. If you're perceived to be anything a part of it, then you're out too.
And they often can't parse out the he said, she said, so, elements of that. So my son was walking down the school hallway when he was in 5th grade, and someone shoved him from the back, and he fell on the floor, and his tooth went up through his gums, and he never fought back. They started pummeling him. He never fought back. Other kids pulled the kid off. They both went to the principal's office, and they both got 2 weeks of out of school suspension. And I went to the school board and said, my son is a victim of a crime. He is not a perpetrator here. And they ended up giving him 3 days of in-school suspension, and the other kid got up to the 2 weeks of out-of-school suspension, but he was still punished, and he had done nothing. So it's outrageous what's happening with the bullying, and it is getting worse because of the internet. the online bullying, the anonymity that it offers kids to and adults to say things they would never say to you to your face.
Yeah.
They'll go online and say horrible things and exclude you socially. And for a kid to be called out socially on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, can be a social death sentence for them.
Yeah. And it's all they know. Like for us, like for me, I'm still learning it, and I'm, I don't get to it all the time. But for them, they're on it. They know, and that's their world.
Mm-hmm.
It's
but there's so much parents and kids can do to keep that. I actually have How to Train a Bully to Not Bully You in my books. There are ways
this
to
is
deal with
huge.
bullies. Yeah,
this is so huge, because you know what, we all need to know this.
Mm-hmm. And it works in adult work situations. When you have a boss or a manager who's toxic, you can use the same sort of techniques with them that you can use in a child's bullying situation. Having someone say just ignore them and they'll go away or fight back is not really supporting the child, and often can put them in more danger. But telling a child, here's how you can take steps to deal with the bully, agreeing with the bully and saying, you're right, I am a klutz, and walking away. Saying, you're right, my last name does rhyme with butt, and walk away. Laugh with the perpetrator, say, yeah, that's pretty funny, and walk away. In every instance, you kind of take the steam out of the bully's engine there. You deny them the satisfaction of your upset reaction. You're not feeding into what they want is you to get upset. That's what feeds them. And when you deny them that reaction, they will get bored and they'll stop. Now they may escalate it at first because they want that reaction. It's like a fix for them. But once they see if your child is consistent with them, and if you're consistent with your manager or your boss, they're going to get bored and they're going to leave you alone.
That's powerful information. Mm-hmm. Right? Because what you're saying to do is probably one of the most difficult things to do, because our human nature is to protect ourselves, mm-hmm. right? And then we're generational patterns of whatever behaviors that we already are dealing with that we don't even know we are.
Yeah, and when it's happening in front of your peers, and your peers may be even joining in because they don't want to be the target and they're relieved that they're not the target. There's just so many elements to this that make it so painful that it's hard for a child not to cry or not get upset. But if you teach your child from the time they're young about how to deal with this, they can avoid the bullying altogether.
This is brilliant. And it's, it's so needed, this information. And even though nobody's really, the pink shirt day and this and that, I don't know, it seems to be drawing, what you focus on kind of expands. It seems, I don't know if it's that but it doesn't seem, this is what's needed. It's the tools and the understanding and the knowledge of.
Yes. It's sort of like the, I think it was Will Smith who said, I use Will Smith example at this point, but Will Smith said something about, to the effect of, there's not more Black people being targeted by cops. There's just more body cameras. There's not necessarily more bullying going on. There's just more awareness of it, and people are seeing it more. So just with many of the crimes, like the sexual assault.
What happens? What seems to happen though, that I don't know, like there's just so much of it, and there's just
schools still aren't reacting properly. Most of them, they still don't protect the kids. The kids have rights under Title IX to be moved to a different class, even a different school, and accommodations can be made. There's a lot of things parents can do.
Here's the thing with that, they don't want that attention. They don't want anybody to notice them or to be pulled out or to be segregated at all. That's the worst thing.
Yeah, it feels punitive. That's why giving them the tools to know how to communicate with a bully is so powerful, because then they feel like they have some control in the situation. And there are still going to be situations where a bully isn't just absolutely set on this, making this kid feel miserable and victimizing them, in which case the parents and the schools need to step in and take action. But a lot of the times kids can handle things, but they don't, because they don't know how. They simply don't have the tools.
Yes. I don't know that I have all the tools yet. I'm still dealing with that as an adult. So there's that.
This is about dealing with any toxic person in your life. It doesn't even have to be bullying. My mom was a very toxic person in my life. She was always saying mean and racist and inappropriate things to me and other people, but I was her favorite target. And one day I was driving to Arkansas to see her. And I called my best friend and I said, I don't know if I can do this. Every time I go home, she's on me. And she said, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go buy a notebook and you're going to write momism on it. And every time she says something mean or racist or inappropriate, you're going to yell momism and write it in your book. I pulled in with my sister to my mom's house and she started in on us saying mean things. And we went, momism, and wrote it down. Well, this happened a few times where my mom finally said, what are you doing? And I said, well, every time you say something mean, racist, or inappropriate, we're going to call it out as a momism and write it in this book. Well, I don't know if I like that. That's the point. She started getting quieter and quieter and quieter until she was barely speaking at the end of the week. As we pull back into our home in North Carolina, in the driveway, the phone rings and it's my mom. And she said, you're not going to put those momisms in one of your books, are you? I said, no, I'm not. My brother called me twice over the next 6 months and said, Mom is freaking out over these momisms. But you know what happened?
I love it.
She stopped. She stopped saying mean things to me. And now she says nice things to me for the first time in 60 years. She tells me she's proud of me, that she loves me. She gives me compliments. She's never done that.
Well,
And
do you think that she was aware?
I think some of it was awareness. I think some of it, part of it was she felt better about herself by making other people feel bad or look bad to others.
And she probably watched that behavior, and she'd probably done that behavior
and she'd done it her whole life. Yeah.
And our body just runs right into it.
Yeah, it held up a mirror for her to see herself and hear herself. And she didn't like what she saw and heard, so she changed her behavior.
Well, what a gift that was for her to be able to see it and do it that quick, because if you can't see it, if you can't feel it, you can't heal it.
Yeah,
and
we have a great relationship now.
Oh, what a blessing.
Yeah.
Right.
And all it took was me figuring out how to help her see herself and hear herself.
Yeah.
I offered her a gift, and in return, I got a gift back.
Yeah. That's huge. Wow. I love that. And then she says nice things to you now.
She does. I'm always so shocked, and it feels so good to have a good relationship with my mom for the first time.
What a healing that is. That's so incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear a little bit of your backstory. So we've got 4 books, and let's hear a little bit of how you your whole how this all your journey, because it's quite interesting.
Well, I was molested as a child by several different people. I was a serial victim because I was very eager. I was so desperate for attention and affection. Yeah. And I was a freezer. So if someone did something inappropriate, like held me on their lap and rubbed their erection against me or molested me or fondled me, would do whatever, I froze and checked out mentally. I dissociated. And so I was really good about not telling anybody. And I'm getting a phone call. I'm going to decline. And I was really good at partitioning it out so that I don't think people were noticing the classic symptoms of a child abuse victim. Although when I hit 15, they all came out: sexual promiscuity, the use of drugs, a lot of depression. These signs and symptoms of PTSD were all over me, but nobody knew what was happening. They just thought I was a bad kid. Then at 19,
and a hormonal teenager probably at that.
I had,
right?
On top of that, I was impossible to live with. I hope my mom forgives me one day. But at 19,
how could you not be? How could you not be? Seriously.
Yeah. So at 19, I was raped twice, once by a sheriff's deputy that I was dating and once by my Marine Corps recruiter. And
my stomach is turning. I am so sorry that this has been your journey, love.
Yeah. But I went in the Marine Corps after that happened. I went into the Marine Corps and I went in like a lion. I was just my dad had been a Marine, my twin brother, my little brother. And so I had something to prove to my family and to myself that I could succeed. And I ended up being honor graduate of my platoon in boot camp. And I just kicking butt in the Marine Corps. But the daily harassment, sexual harassment it was like MASH, which I used to think was a funny show. But if you think about it, the nurses were constantly being groped and propositioned and manhandled all the way through the show. And we used to laugh at that, think it was funny. Well, in the Marine Corps, we used to laugh it off as boys will be boys, but it wore at me over the years. And after 5 years, I was demoralized. Yeah. And I finally I was medically discharged for depression and got out. So I went in with like a lion and went out with a whimper. And so I didn't deal with the abuse until 1990. And I was in a meeting at United Way where I worked, and all of a sudden I burst into tears and started crying, and I fled to the bathroom and couldn't figure out why. I cried for 2 hours. I couldn't get me out of the bathroom stall. So I ran away to Connecticut for a week with my first journal, and I started writing everything down, and all the memories just came pouring out of what had happened. And I went back home and got into therapy. 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with lupus and scleroderma. So it's like my brain said, you got to deal with this. My body said, you deal with this or we're done. You know, a lot of the times we manifest trauma in our bodies. You know that better than anybody. And so I became disabled by the lupus and the scleroderma, but I started going to college full time, and I got my bachelor's degree. And at the same time, I started volunteering at rape crisis centers to help other victims while I was still getting help for myself. And then I focused my studies in graduate school. I got an interdisciplinary criminology sociology degree in human violence. So I studied everything from interpersonal violence, sexual abuse and domestic violence and so forth, to institutional violence, war and terrorism and moral injury, trying to understand how people could do these kinds of things to other people.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah, I really did.
I'd like to know.
Heavy stuff. But it led me to an incredible career in criminal justice. I became a danger expert. I ran a child advocacy center for abused kids, and I worked at the Attorney General's office in North Carolina as the director of victims issues. And then I became an entrepreneur.
You are a badass. I love it.
You.
Holy, my goodness. I'm really grateful to meet you. What a superstar you are.
So I became an entrepreneur, but then in 1990, I became so ill from the lupus that I had to stop working. And by 2002, I was so debilitated that I couldn't go up and down the stairs except on my hands and knees. I couldn't turn a doorknob. I was 240 pounds because of the steroids I was on. I was in constant pain, and the doctors told me my heart was going to fail and that I was going to die at any time. And Jackie, I was terrified, and I dove into a deep depression and waited to die. And then I got the chance to speak privately with a Tibetan Buddhist Lama for advice. And I went to his house and I made a pitiful bow and I poured out my tale of woe, and I waited for him to shower me with sympathy. And that's when I learned that lamas don't do dramas. Because he very sternly but kindly said, stop feeling sorry for yourself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And I was shocked and I was defensive because he was saying I shouldn't feel sorry for myself. And I had no way to help anybody else. I couldn't even help myself. Yeah. So I argued with him, which I also learned you don't do with a Lama. But he insisted, stop feeling sorry for yourself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And on the way home, I'm driving my car and I'm thinking, what can I possibly do in my debilitated state to help anybody when an ambulance went by with a siren blaring? And I said a quick wish that the person inside would find help and healing. And I thought, well, that was easy. I can do that. So I started letting the other drivers cut ahead of me in line and let the mommy with the crying baby go ahead of me in line at the grocery store. And I felt a little happier. So I made it a daily practice to do at least one act of kindness a day. I left inspirational notes on the driver's side doors at the cancer center. I gave my cane to a woman who was struggling to walk. I volunteered at the Red Cross after Hurricane Katrina. And I felt happier because what had happened is I'd become so consumed by my own pain and suffering that I forgot everyone's fighting a hard battle. The suffering is not my suffering. It's shared by all of us in some way. And so doing these acts of kindness gave me perspective and reminded me of my humanity and others. And it opened my heart. And so it no longer mattered whether I was sick or well or even living or dying. I was content. And at that point, my condition went into remission all within 18 months after I started doing the acts of kindness. And here I am 20 years later, 20 years after they said I was going to die at any moment. And I feel better than I felt in the last 40 years.
You look amazing.
I feel amazing.
You look amazing, honestly. I can't even stand that you have been already through all of this in your journey and you look like this, like you are aglow.
Thank you.
Really, you don't look like a victim.
No, and I'm not, I don't even feel like a survivor anymore. And it's funny because I feel like the healing that I did, almost like that stuff never even happened to me because I'm not that person anymore. And I feel like it even healed generations before me in some way. Does that make sense?
That's right. I feel like I just completed a cycle of generations of what I was going through. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I found a joy that is so constant. It's like I live in this constant state of bliss, and things happen, but I don't react to them I'm not attached to things anymore. I'm not attached to the pleasure or the pain of life. And so I live in this constant aquifer of joy that's just content wherever I am. And it's
Wow.
beautiful.
So the common thing that I hear from Joe Dispenza, Greg Braid, and Bruce Lipton, like all of the scientists and the doctors and all that are all at the Heart Math Institute, it's all about the heart. You open that heart, and just that the brain heart coherence, just breathing and focusing on your heart, opening for 5, just those few breaths brings you right into this state. And that state apparently is that healing space where it takes you out of your thoughts and out of the past, and you're in that space where you can have those instant downloads and healings. But we keep ourselves out of that with the 50, how many thoughts do we have a day? 80,000 thoughts a day.
Oh my gosh.
They say every day. And usually they're the same thoughts you had yesterday. 80,000 thoughts a day. We're unconscious. 95% of it.
And our bodies, without us even realizing it, are constantly reacting to those thoughts. And if they're negative thoughts, we're producing those negative chemicals, the cortisol and the adrenaline and the, and we're feeding off of that. Our cells learn to eat that and live with that.
I've been working on breaking that down and being aware. And honestly, literally, I'll be like, my body it's on its way somewhere, and I'll be like, okay, what's happening? Like literally having to see myself going, wow. And it's I am really, I'm really surprised with what is actually going on, and none of us have none of us. A lot of us, it's not a society thing.
Yeah, we're not taught that. We're not taught emotional intelligence or emotional awareness or body awareness. It's, we're taught how to do math and science and all these other things. Whoever uses algebra now? I mean, but how many people could use this knowledge about how their bodies actually work, then, physiologically, and how it affects our thinking in our bodies and how it all works together? Nobody's taught that. You have to seek it out.
That's right. And that's why it's so important for us to share, because we have to have this knowledge. This is the wisdom of the ages. And this is where our connection to sources is in. That's
why I was so excited to find your program, because that's the stuff you talk about. And you're right. We have to tell others about it so that they can discover it and uncover it and live it.
Yeah. And like Dr. Joe says, spirituality is just the knowing of thyself. It's not religion. It's not so you can have your religion, you can have your whatever. This is an all-inclusive thing. It's not separate. It's like everybody and there's so many people that are so real and true in their religion and have that connection. But for the ones that I didn't grow up with any of that knowledge, right? And so I'm not comfortable with, I have a connection where I talk and know that space, but didn't know really what to call it. Like had to come to my own awareness and comfortableness with that, because I don't know, I didn't think it was cool when I was growing up.
I didn't know anything about it when I was growing up. I had no exposure to this stuff, none.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to share my weird ideas with people, they, where I grew up, they were like, "What is wrong with you?" And now they still say that agrees with me, that understands where I'm coming from. But the keys to this joy are gratitude and generosity. When you open, the generosity will open your heart, and then being grateful for everything you get in return, which is so much more powerful than what you ever can give. It's like when they say like tithing, you get it back tenfold. Every action you take has a magnified reaction that comes back to you, positive or negative.
Especially if you're coming from the heart, intending from the heart for the good of all, right? If you go in to be of service and you just ask, right, for the highest good of all, whatever. And it's so fun.
How can I respond out of love rather than react out of fear? Asking that question before you react to something that upsets you immediately calms the mind, starts the endorphins and the serotonin flowing, and gets you in a different state of mind so that you can act out of that place of love.
Yeah.
And the gratitude piece is so important because when you can be grateful for the trials you have, it's like, the butterfly has to turn into goo. The caterpillar has to turn into goo before it can sprout wings and be this beautiful thing. A chick has to fight its way to get out of the egg. The shoot has to struggle to get through the soil to reach the sun. If they are denied those things, if you tear open the cocoon to see the butterfly, you killed it. If you open the egg to see the chick, you killed it. If you tear open the soil to see the sprouts growing, you killed it. The struggle is what makes them strong enough to survive. And when you can be grateful for the struggles, when you can be grateful for the trials you've been through, once you've gone through them, I'm not saying you can, it's hard to be grateful in the midst of it. I'm not saying people should just, apply gratitude and your problems are over. This is something that comes later, but when you can see the gift that every problem holds for you in its hands, that every enemy is your teacher, then you've solved it. You figured out the secrets to life and you've solved it. And it's all easy from there.
I think that it helps us forgive when you even have that knowledge, right? That the people that are giving you the hardest time in your life, it's usually contracts before we even come in.
I agree with that.
And, from the
They
Akashic
loved
records,
us enough to say, I
that.
will abuse you in this lifetime. They loved you enough to say, I will be your biggest tormentor to help you learn this lesson that you are so eager to learn. I will play the bad guy for you. And so you're not just healing your own generations of trauma when you heal yourself, you're healing your enemies too.
And maybe the trauma and what they're doing, because anytime you're doing something to somebody, the effects are far worse on the person who is dishing it, right? Because they're the one creating it, stewing it, feeling it, and then serving it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people think that they're doing that, and then it's they're damaging somebody else, but really the damage is theirs, because energetically it's going to come back with law of attraction back to them.
That's right.
Probably 100-fold.
Mm-hmm.
And if they keep doing it, maybe 1,000-fold. And all of this
we are
is
so connected. We are all connected, and also reaching the point where you recognize that it's very easy to look at you, Jackie, and say we are one. You are me, I am you, and really get that. It's much harder to do when somebody you've been in an intimate relationship with, or your parent or your child, and it's a toxic relationship, to be able to recognize that you are one. But if you can extend your mind, if you can turn things inside out and upside down, and look from a different perspective and see that they are here, not for your harm, but for your benefit, however awful it looks on the outside. Well, let's use an example. You're walking down the sidewalk and suddenly a total stranger shoves you down to the ground, to the pavement, and your hands are bloody and you're bruised and you're disheveled and you're upset. You're angry with this person. You hate this person who just hurt you. Then you realize they were shoving you out of the way of a speeding car and saved your life. Suddenly you're filled with gratitude and appreciation for this person. It's nothing different happened. The same thing happened. It was your perspective that was different. And that other perspective is always there to see. If you just allow yourself the space to come out of your suffering and out of your victim thinking, because I was a big victim. Oh my gosh,
we all are. We all are
in
a society, and we're all raised it, and nobody's accountable for anything. And it's not until we can own our part of what it is. And I go overboard. I was going into owning all of it, right? Which is ridiculous too, right? Just because I just so wanted to get it this time and get off of it, right? Just don't do I don't want to do this again. But yeah, it's I just lost my train of thought with that little note there.
You're absolutely right, though. And that was one of the toughest moments of my life, was when I had to look in that mirror with honest eyes and see myself and my own machinations and how I manipulated people, not to be cruel, because I'm not a cruel person, but to do things that I thought were going to keep me safe, and things that would make me feel better about myself and feed me. Of course, I had a hole inside of me so huge that only I could fill, but I didn't know that. I was trying to fill it with other people's appreciation and love. And because I was so desperate for that, I was attracting people who were abusing that desire to get.
Because we have no self-love.
No self-love. No self-love. I loathed myself. Oh my God, I hated myself.
But I think that's everybody's biggest problem right there is nobody knows how to love themselves because we've not been taught. So we've got some people that are egotistical or, they're narcissistic and they think of, but it's not real love. They don't have any compassion. They don't have compassion or gratitude or the most important things to have an amazing day in life. You have to have those higher vibrational emotions.
Yeah. And the way to do that, to find self-love, is some of the hardest work anybody can ever do. And that's doing exactly what I did. And that's looking in the mirror, going through your life on a month or year by year basis and saying, how have I harmed others? In what way have I intentionally or unintentionally harmed others? And looking at it and looking at your reasons why you were doing that. I was trying to get affection. I was trying to hurt that person because they thwarted me and they upset me. They either denied me something I wanted or they did something I didn't want. And I was attached to that. So I reacted meanly. And looking at that and then forgiving yourself for doing it.
Yeah.
And I have done, I don't know how many bubble baths I took where I went through my life over and over again of the same issues. And then I would find an occasional new one would crop up where I just went through this forgiveness process of, oh my God, I did that. I did the best I could with what I had. And I was so clueless, but I'm so sorry I hurt you. You're familiar, I'm sure, with Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian practice of forgiveness.
I changed the words though.
But they did? What did they change it to?
I did.
What'd you change it to?
Instead of I forgive, I say I accept instead of I am sorry. Instead of I am sorry, I say I accept because it's kind of a lower vibrational word. And so I accept is the allowing.
Like I accept responsibility, you mean?
I accept. Yeah, I just accept what is, that it just is. Everything just is. So I accept instead of I am sorry. So I accept that I am here and that this is happening and not have to just accept that it just is. Like this just is instead, and to lose some of the momentum and the power that we're giving all of these, because it's usually something that's happened when we were a child and we perceived a certain thing. And then of course that didn't get healed and that energy gets stuck. And then we're attracting more of that same vibrational pattern because we don't know that it's stuck and lodged in different parts of our body. And that's why we end up with these various body things going screaming at us. And then we still don't pay attention because we don't know what that is, because we don't have the understanding that we're storing in our body and our body's trying to let us know, okay, can you release this now? Like just, let this energy go through because it's nothing. It's not even true. It's not even right. It's like, it just,
the answer is to accept, like you said, open your hand and let it go.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds too simplistic, but it's a practice of doing it over and over again that makes it possible. You can't over one time say, I'm going to let go of what my daddy did to me. It doesn't work that way. You have to constantly revisit preferably in therapy, if it's something like that has happened to you, or a trusted person who can guide you through that process of looking at it and trying to find, your own, how you took responsibility for something that wasn't your fault and forgiving yourself for the things you think you did. Because I used to believe the reason I hated myself is I believe there was something inherently wrong with me that made good people do bad things. Not that they were bad, shitty people who did things to me, but that I was causing these terrible things to happen because there was something wrong with me inside.
And that was a perception that a little girl had because of a reaction and an interaction that she was experiencing energetically that didn't feel good, didn't feel safe. And that then was going on and on. So now you go to your big world and you're looking out there at 7, and now all of a sudden the same energy is coming at you. Yes. And it's in the environment as well. And so I believe that that's where those shadow selves are, right? Like that little girl, the wounded little one. I went and did some, I have this great coach and he's a shaman, and I just ended up, it just was a divine thing that we came across each other. And he goes back and picks up soul pieces.
Soul retrievals.
And he'll like drop me right into somewhere and tell me exactly what was happening. And yeah, there I was. And it was my dad. My mom she was supposed to be dad. She comes home 2 months later and my dad's got all these kids, works day and night. Right? And he was not well. And he was yelling. And I remember being a little girl and I was so scared of him. Well, he wasn't well. He wasn't coping, but as a little girl, we don't know any of that.
Mhm.
I thought it was all me, and I was scared to daylights of him, and we didn't have a good relationship at all because he probably didn't know what the heck was wrong with me because I was like this all the time, right? Like you look at it all then, but you don't. Yeah, it's in there. We just have to
It
keep
is, and you
asking.
have to, as an adult, I was so terrified. That 5-year-old child in me who was so traumatized became the boogeyman in the back of my mind. She was this little monster with bared teeth and wild, frenzied hair, and she hated me and she wanted to kill me. And I did everything I did was to run away from that and hide that from the world, because if they saw how horrible I really was, they would turn away from me. And it took years of doing this inner child work of to even get her to look at me and trust me,
Yeah.
because I had to do things like buy a stuffed animal and cry into a stuffed animal and rock the stuffed animal. I mean, I did things that would look silly to other people who don't understand inner child work, but it worked for me.
Yeah.
Where I literally had to go back and heal that 5-year-old because I
yeah.
was stunted. I was emotionally and spiritually stunted at the age of 5 and couldn't move past that. And as long as I couldn't move past that, I was going to keep attracting perpetrators because I was a victim in my mind. Life was happening to me, and I was so stuck there. I got off on being a victim. I'm just going to say it. If you told me 10, 20 years ago that I engaged in victim thinking, I would have been furious with you.
Yeah.
But it was true.
Yeah.
I was so stuck there that I knew how to be comfortable in that space. And if there was nothing bad happening to me, I created chaos of some kind around me. I would stir up the pot so
Well,
that I
I
could
think
be in
you
that
said that
environment.
earlier, right?
Mhm.
Like you were talking about the bully, and it's like it's time for the feeding because we need that charge of that fight or flight again. I lived in it my whole life and didn't even know.
Yeah.
In fight or flight my whole like it's. I look back and I'm just thinking like, no wonder I'm just like, oh, because
Yeah.
I've not been in a safe space for
Nope.
many years of
Yeah.
my.
Adrenaline. I was held together by bubble gum and baling wire and adrenaline and cortisol.
Yeah, me some Slurpees and some potato chips and chocolate.
Yeah. But that gratitude work, doing those acts of generosity, intent, random or otherwise, those acts of kindness to others goes so far to heal the heart. And then being grateful for every experience you have. And again, in the moment, it's often hard to feel grateful in the moment, but give yourself a little time and perspective, and you can find the gift for everything in it, that it holds in its hands for you.
I was taught that to start by intending every morning, set the intention in the morning, right?
Mhm.
And set the intention for, I want to find gratitude in my day today in as many things as possible. And just setting that and having that thought, all of a sudden you'll find it. And at the end of your day, stopping and going, okay, where were my wins? Right.
Yep.
And if we acknowledge that, all of a sudden we get a ball rolling for ourselves. And I'm working on that right now. I mean, I've worked on that many times for myself, and I'm doing that with, me and my daughter are doing that together. And it's just
That's wonderful.
yeah, it's just this, it's like a one step at a time, right? Because
Mhm.
this is the foundation and it needs to be built and it needs to be solid, and it wasn't. So let's now that we understand and have new knowledge, but you know what, our society, nobody knows. Everybody's the victim. Everybody's calling victim, right? And everybody wants somebody to feel sorry for them, and somebody's right, somebody's wrong, good,
Yes.
bad, right, wrong. It's all shit. Excuse my
Yeah.
language.
It is.
It's
It
all a
is.
waste of energy, and it's just fear-based, and it's toxic, and it creates disease. All of
It
it.
does. And that's why we're such a sick nation. I mean, we really are.
Yeah,
We are a
if
sick
people were just
nation.
honest and they just were truthful and just state your truth, but we don't seem to, we've not been taught that.
It's
like-
courageous. Oh my God. It takes so much courage to look at yourself honestly and see where your head is at and try to see things from a different perspective.
I think that how can you not? It's so freaking painful. Like, I just want to know, like, I want to know, I almost want to heal it. I want to dig it
Yeah.
up, pull it up. Let's pull up
Whoever's
all the
hearing us
weeds.
right now and says, I can't do this, it's too hard, I'm going to tell them you can do hard things. It's hard. It is hard. I'm not going to deny it, but you can do hard things. And your listeners need to hear that and embrace that, because on the other side of the hard thing is a life filled with joy beyond what you could ever dream possible.
Yeah.
And it's there and it's waiting for you. It's here now. And quite frankly, it's here now. We just have to take those red lenses off our eyes that see the world with murdery, from a murdery perspective or a rapey perspective or whatever perspective we've got these colored lenses over our eyes. We have to drop that and see things as they truly are.
We have to allow, we have to accept and allow it in,
Yes,
right?
accept and allow.
Yeah. I was
and not resist.
I was asking, yes, but then, and there's also, we need to trust, right? So there's some key things that have to, we need to ask, and we need to ask every day, all day. We need to ask, like, how can I see this from a bigger perspective, a perspective where it's the highest good for all, right?
What is that person who's making me feel so upset? They're not actually making you feel upset. You're getting upset. What is that person who's making me feel so upset? What are they feeling right now? Why are they acting this way? Give yourself a little bit of space around the situation to see maybe what their perspective is, and you will see it from a different angle.
Yeah, and I'm in the thick of that stuff right now still, and it's day to day and it's hour to hour sometimes, and it's moment to moment. And some days I'm good and I'm great and I'm grounded, and other days energetically, and just that's just, we live in a polarized universe.
And it's
right?
always it's the people who we're closest to, who we love the most, that we struggle with the most when it comes to this. So you think that it'd be easier to forgive someone you love or to deal with someone you love? No, it's way harder, because
how can they do that to you?
We have an expectation of them. We set our expectations of them, and when they don't give us what we want, whether we've told them or not, like for guys won't tell us what they want, or some women, a lot of women won't tell guys what they want. But in our head, we know what we want from them. And when they don't do what we want, they have thwarted us in some way. Suddenly they become our enemy.
Communication is huge. So that's the other thing that I learned, was what I was communicating wasn't what was being received. And so another thing that I learned was, what did you hear me say? Or this is what I heard you say.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
and it's surprising how often we're wrong about what they intended, what they meant by what they said.
Yeah, especially the opposite sex. Because they're from a whole different freaking planet. Like, come on now, right? Like, they're not even from here.
Yeah.
They're not from the good. But it's huge, right? And that Venus and Mars thing, but it really is, like, they think totally, it's a whole different animal. And so all of that awareness, you are brilliant. This has been an amazing conversation. I could talk about this all day long, because
we are right on the same wavelength, you and I, Jackie.
Yeah.
Obviously we're reading the same books, listening to the same people. Yeah. So I'm glad we found each other.
I am too. You know what? I know I'm out looking for my tribe, because I have now. I've put myself in a space now where I get to meet people that are there. I mean, like you. I mean, you're sharing, you're writing books, you're a leader. You're wow. Like, you must be so proud of yourself. Your family must be just.
I love myself now. I never thought I would. I love myself.
I love you
not
too.
In an egotistical way. I like to think not in an egotistical way, but in a I see my own divinity just as I see the divinity in others. I namaste myself all the time, like I namaste others, because there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm weird sometimes, and I make social faux pas, and I embarrass myself sometimes, and I laugh it off. I laugh at my own foibles, because what else are you going to do?
Do you know what? The best thing is for us to do that, because everybody's weird. And that's what makes them uncomfortable, is you're showing something, and then it's just people, they just don't want to be seen, and they don't want to stand out, and it just makes people uncomfortable. So if you're making
those are the people I'm attracted to. I love the socially awkward people, because it's like I see you, I am you.
Right? Yeah, because they're authentic. They're just being. They're not trying to put on the facade of that to fit in still. Like, you know what? We all did that already, and it's not really fun, right? It doesn't get you. It doesn't get you where this does. Like, this path, this journey of maybe it's not as, path hasn't been cut. It's just being cut by leaders like yourself. And it's, I don't know, it's the path untraveled, right? Like the less travel, the path less traveled. Is that what I'm gonna
That's
say?
right.
It's way better. It's,
Oh my God.
it's way better. And every day you don't know what you're getting at. And that fear is, it's just changing the perspective of,
And it comes out to be excitement.
yeah, I'm
can change it
creating
to
this.
excitement.
So I
Not I have to
decide.
do this, but I get to do this.
Yeah, I decide. What am I going to create today? And ask for it and connect. And
Pure potential.
Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. And
Yeah.
the days that you don't connect and you don't spend that time in the morning for yourself, gong show. The end of the, you're exhausted, you've gotten into it with a bunch of different people. I can't even, it's such night and day.
Yeah. Because that setting that morning intention grounds you, reminds you that it's a brand new day full of potential, that you get to decide what happens next. I mean, crap will happen to you, but you don't have to react to it. You can respond to it from a place of love. You can make that choice. You choose at every juncture. And if you're not choosing, that's a choice too.
That's right.
You know?
But again,
so choose love, choose joy.
Do we know that? Is that talked about? Is that an awareness that people are thinking to do? Because I know it and I'm learning it and I'm still forgetting. So it's really a practice, right? That we, it's good. I can't wait to read your book. I really, really actually in need for your book. Well,
let me know which one you want and I'll send you one.
I would love.
I want to make an offer for your listeners too. Anybody who's listening to this, I have a really cool Total Badass bracelet and I'll send you one for free. If you go on my website and you just give me your email and tell me a story about when you were a total badass or how you'd like to be a total badass. Send me a story about you that tells me something about who you really are at your core, what you're grappling with, what you've succeeded at. It can be anything.
And your email address is, we're going to put it with the podcast anyways, with the script. But
my web address is cjscarlet.com, and that's CJSCARLET, just one T, not like Ms. Scarlet, but like Miss Scarlet in the boardroom with Sharpie knife. .com. So it's cjscarlet.com, and my email is just cj@cjscarlet.com. And you can call me, you can email me. I'm very accessible. I'll answer any questions you have.
Yeah, and you know what? If you don't have kids, buy this book for your neighbors and your family, because we need to start something new. We need to learn. We need to get a new paradigm going on, because the one that we have isn't working. It's not working. It's destroying our kids. It's the competition between the parents. The kids are all, trying to perform to be what the parent wasn't in their world. And it's just ridiculous. And if it doesn't look perfect, then, that it's so not good. It's not healthy.
Cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
And that's where all the bullying comes, right? Like, it's just that whole not enough, not love, judgment. Like we need to do it differently.
Yeah, my first book, the one I'm going to send you, is called Neptune's Gift, Discovering Your Inner Ocean. It's the very first book I wrote, and it only takes like an hour to read. Okay. And it's an allegorical tale that Jack Canfield called the next Jonathan Livingston Seagull, for those of you who are old enough to remember Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
Yes.
And it's kind of a spirituality 101, but it reminds you, it's about an average wave who's terrified because he's going to crash on the shore, until he meets a larger wave who teaches him that he's not just a mere wave, but the ocean itself. And I stole that story from a Mitch Albom book, Tuesdays with Maury. He had a little 1-paragraph story about it. And I was so inspired. I sat down, and in 24 hours, I wrote this book about the journey this average wave takes with this mentor wave, Serena, to the shore, and how he goes from being terrified and miserable to greeting the shore with joy and appreciation and gratitude.
Love that.
Yeah. And it's a book for kids too. So it's a book for all ages.
I love that. I think all of your books need to be read by all of us. I'm really excited about it. I'm raising kids, and you know what? It's a journey, and it's challenging, and it's challenging for them. Like you said, it's a whole, I did not grow up in what is happening there now. Like the whole, I don't know it. I don't get it. So when am I going to sit there and I don't know. I don't know. That's
actually a really good place to be, the I don't know place. Yeah. That's a place of potential. I know what I'm doing. I know what I think. I know what I believe. I know you're wrong. I know I'm right
Yeah.
is a stuck place. It's a toxic place. The place of I don't know is the ideal place to be. It's the beginner's mind. It's perceiving everything that happens to you with an open mind, a beginner's mind that says, I'm open to receive. I will allow what is coming and then respond out of a place of love, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And that may be the responding from a place of love may be removing a toxic person from your life.
Yeah.
Responding
And
with love
not
doesn't
feeling
mean
guilty about it, knowing that,
That's right.
knowing that you don't need to beat yourself up about cleaning out the garbage. We need to release things that we're not
And
using
people,
anymore,
yeah.
that aren't for our highest good or for their highest good.
Yeah,
right?
and you're doing them a favor when you do that. You're teaching them something about what your boundaries are and what you allow shows people over and over again what they can do to you. If you want to stop feeling like a victim and feel like people are doing bad things to you, you need to stop allowing it. You need to remove those people from your life. And that may be leaving a bad marriage. It may mean not talking to your child for a while, adult child for a while. It may mean a lot of painful things, but you have to choose yourself and your own sanity and your own, spiritual and mental and emotional health and have that boundary in place. And so acting out of a place of love may mean ending a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And it will hurt, but you will as you work through that, they may see that they've been behaving badly. And when they come back, they're okay to re-enter your life or not.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to put up, never is responding with love a reaction, with full-heartedly and with no boundaries, a good reaction to abuse.
No, and I think for myself, I was a people pleaser. I was a hairstylist for 30 years. Give, right, 10 hours a day. You're just, yes, just, and it's, so then you're giving more than you should. And then people start to expect and take, and then you're disrespected. And then
that's martyrdom.
And this is part of the accountability of, okay, so yeah, so there's this injured little girl, but then there's this stuff that I'm doing as well as an adult, that I need to have a look at all these behaviors that I'm doing, because that's just attracting and getting me more of what I don't want. So,
and coming to a place where you can see that people pleasing is actually a form of manipulation. Again, you're not trying to be cruel. You're trying to manipulate the situation. If I do what they want, if I overgive, if I appease them, if I give them what they want, they'll love me, like me, love me, keep me employed, whatever, and they won't hurt me. But if they're a toxic person, they're going to hurt you anyway.
Right.
You're throwing yourself down, a rat hole with no end in sight.
And you know what? And hopefully you're clear enough to get it and see yourself and know that that's what you're doing, so you don't have to do it again.
Yeah, I had to catch myself a million times. There's real quickly, there's that short story about, I walk down the street and there's a hole in the sidewalk, I fall in. I'm walking down the street, there's a hole in the sidewalk, I fall in. You go through that several iterations several times, and then as I walked on the sidewalk, there's a hole, I walk around it. I walked on the sidewalk, there's a hole, I go down a different street.
I know, I love that, actually.
It takes time.
I've heard that for a long time,
you have to catch yourself. You have to catch yourself in the act and say, oh, wow, I'm doing this again. And then change your behavior.
Create a new pattern, right? Because we got to break down the one that is working and face it. Is this working? Is this still good? Is this truth? Does this belief, we have all these beliefs that we heard from somebody else, and then maybe we heard it again and again, then we believe it to be true. Or
you're creating new neural connections in your brain. You're creating new connections in your heart to a different way of thinking, a different way of being. And those, as you reinforce those connections by being more allowing, by acting out of a place of love, by protecting yourself, those connections grow stronger, and the toxic ones get weaker until they fall away. Right?
Because your vibration comes up because you're up in the heart, and they can't reach you up there.
That's right. And once I reach that point, I have not had a toxic experience with anybody in 20 years at least. Nobody's tried to touch me inappropriately. No one said anything inappropriate to me. Now, granted, I'm getting older, and so I'm not as attractive as I used to be. But
shut the front door! Look at you.
I'm gorgeous. But I don't put out the energy that says that's okay anymore, because I love myself enough to have the conscious boundaries my unconscious energy that I'm putting out to the world is just as strongly saying to people to the predators out there, don't even try.
Yeah.
Just don't even try. And they don't. But if they did, oh man, I know how to protect myself now.
So, when you listen to somebody who has been down this road and done the work, and then you share this experience, and it's ringing true for somebody like, oh, you know what, this is what I do. This is a similar pattern. This is ringing true. And then just even that brings awareness to one of their behaviors that they would probably not have known or seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we don't see ourselves again, right? Like
No, and I would
so powerful, this work.
That's why these podcasts matter. That's why your podcast matters. That's why these books we write and read matter. I only got here because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants who wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull and who wrote Illusions, Richard Bach, who wrote Illusions, and all the people who wrote these inspiring books that said there's more to you than what you see when you look in the mirror. If it wasn't for those people leaving breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel's, leaving breadcrumbs, I could never have made it. That's why you are so important, Jackie.
All of us. Nobody gets anywhere. Like anybody who's anywhere that people are looking up to and thinking, oh, I wish that was me. It takes all of us. It takes everybody. And what's great about this work and these podcasts is that everybody isn't stepping on somebody to get to their thing. Everybody, this gig, you've got to lift. Everybody's got to lift the next person if you want
lift as you climb. Lift as you climb.
Mm-hmm. And way more fun, right?
Because it's not pie. I mean, if I ask for something from the universe, that doesn't mean less for you.
No, it was like when I had my first daughter, I couldn't imagine that if I had another child that I could love it. Like, how am I going to have another child? Because there's no way I'm going to be able to love
all your lesbians.
Like, I just couldn't imagine that there was that much love, like that, right? It was just have no idea, right? Like
your heart expands, your mind expands to absorb all of it.
Whatever we can dream, we can have, because they say if you can see it, then it's already here. We just have to allow it in. So visualize, spend time in where we're headed instead of where we've, been beaten down, right? That's my journey anyway, from here moving forward.
It's such a pleasure to talk with you. One more time, my email address is cj@cjscarlet.com. My web address is cjscarlet.com. And when you write to me, please give me your mailing address so that I can send you your bracelet. And I need your mailing address too, so I can send you your book and your bracelet.
And we're going to have a nice write-up, and we'll make sure that we have all of that information with the podcast. And I will let you know when we're posting it out, so that, because it just takes a couple of days. Unfortunately, we're not going live. I'm not there yet. I did do some of the live podcasts in our Broadcast Yourself course, and it's really, really fun. But it is kind of nice to kind of know that you're not live, just in case it's like, okay, you take care of yourself, and I know that we're going to meet again.
Yes,
so, and definitely. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.